is up, and it's good.
You're listening to The Extra Point, hosted by Phil Ruskin. Welcome.
What up, what up, what up? Welcome to another episode of The Extra Point. It's your boy, Phil Ruskin, hanging out with you on another Tuesday night. Got my guy, Kendall VanDerBilt, with me as always. We've had a month, man. We've had some troubles, but we're there. You're here. I'm here. We're ready to rock and roll. Guys, I'm not going to lie. We have a badass show tonight. One of my favorite shows to do of the well, there is no offseason in Dynasty, right, Kendall? It's just the early preseason. So we're just going to call it an early preseason show. Big thanks to the folks on Discord, all the people in Sleeper in our leagues. We got a ton of submissions for trades that you have either sent or have accepted. Kendall and I are going to do our best to get through as many of these as we can. I've got I've got 14 trades in here, so I think we're going to get through a minimum of 9 of them. And if we don't, for any reason, get to your particular trade tonight, I will send some comments and I will DM you, and Kendall will as well. But we're ready to rock and roll. Yeah, Mike Hare, appreciate you, brother. Getting that beard back, slowly but surely. I told you all I hated it. For those that are not watching on YouTube, that might be listening on Spotify or Patreon, sometimes as a man, you just got to see your face. I had one of those little freakouts, had an emotional weekend a couple weekends ago, got home and just Britney Spears my face, just shaved it from handsome beard to, oh my God, what the F did I just do? So thank you, Mike, for letting me know that the beard is on the way back. I will not be doing the shave. It's been 5 years, Kendall, since I've shaved. 5.
Oh man.
So I saw my face. My daughter has never seen my face ever without the beard. So I went and woke her up in the morning and she was like, "Daddy, your face." And I was like, "I know." So let's not waste time with my beard. Let's not waste time with anything. We got trades to get into. I teased this one last week, and I apologize to Adam C. 1883 and T. Hummel. We did not get to their trade, and we are absolutely going to start with their trade tonight because not only is it a big trade, it's a monster. But it is, I think, Kendall, it's really fair. But let's dive into it. So here's what we got, guys. This is a 12-team super flex tight end premium league submitted by Adam C. 1883 and T. Hummel. Team A, as you can see here on the screen, I will read it out for those listening on Patreon and Spotify. Team A is going to receive Rashee Rice, Luther Burden, a 2028 first 12-team league, and the 2026 203. So let's go through it again. Rice, Burden, this year's 203, and a 28 first. Team B is going to receive Amon-Ra, Mike Evans, a 26 304, a 27 third, and a 28 second. Kendall, I teased it by saying I think this is a pretty fair trade, but which side do you like? Do you think it's fair? And then obviously let's break it down.
Yeah, so for starters, great job by the guys that put it together. I heard it was kind of a back and forth, just a good negotiation and messages. You know, day jobs, everyone's busy, but I think it's the hallmark. It's what makes fantasy really fun when it's not just send an offer. Like a snap accept is really cool, but we like playing fantasy football and engaging the material. Working a trade is man, half the time you sit after an hour after these shows. So I just thought it was cool that they really got nuanced with it. I do think it's fair. It's enough when you get to big pieces, especially multiple. I kind of have to look at, is it within the bandwidth of like acceptable? But then you have to look and say, like, the range on some players, it's really about, if you were to pop it in like, 10 different calculators, right? I'm not a big trade calculator guy, especially. I just don't think the algorithms really work and they're not updated, right? I mean, this just clearly is on par with, it's going to be reasonable. It's in that range of market value. Let's say I'm really strong on any of these players. Market value, this is fair, right? The range of outcomes factor is Luther Burden super hype right now, but it hasn't materialized, right? So there is a relatively wide range of outcomes, no matter how sure we are. things happen, right?
Yep.
Rashee Rice, we have some clarity now. When this trade went down, this was before the news had come out. That's worth knowing for those in YouTube land. So this was during the, hey, do we want to de-risk off of Rashee Rice? And even with the current news, obviously we know there's some issues there. The way I look at this trade is I play in a longer dynasty window than a lot of other players. I typically am more 3-year outlook. A lot of folks are on 2. I mean, it's a pretty big increase, 50% increase in the playable window, right? For me, I don't love what could happen to Rashee Rice in 2027 plus. I feel like the Chiefs are going to add a wide receiver this year. How good, what tier level? I'm not 100% sure. You know, it's always fun to think of the spiciest addition you can to an offense with Patrick Mahomes at the helm, right? So if it doesn't happen right away, I do think it happens and continues to happen. I'm not going to do the bury him. He's always a troublemaker. I don't love it, right? I do think it's a real risk factor, and the bottom completely falls out. Like, would I rather Rashee Rice get injured for 6 games or be a psychopath? Fact is, you can recover from 6-game injury, right? So what I'm saying is, overall, whatever he's worth, he can't get much more valuable, but things could bottom out quite a bit. So I do think it's a nice de-risk trade. So for those reasons, I think the Amon-Ra side is the safer play, right? If you already have a lot of stacked assets, if you are a solid contender, don't need to take a lot of risks. It's really about just stabilizing a little bit. I think the Amon-Ra side makes sense. That being said, if you're I think we're going to talk about it with some later trades. Phil, me and you are very much in agreement when it comes to no matter how good a player is, if your team's not going to be a championship window contending team, that asset's not really serving you any justice, right? That's particular at the running back position. These are our wide receivers, right? But I think with the way it's set up, if I don't think I'm making a big title run, I do like the idea of, okay, Rashee Rice, a 2 first level player, doesn't devalue. And then you have Luther Burden that can spin up to a Ladd McConkey in his prime type of situation where Ladd was going for almost 2 firsts, right? The total value, not an elite level outcome, but just in somewhat of a like pretty good outcome range, a 75th percentile or 25th, however you want to kind of rank it, that level of good, that side has the chance to win, right? I do think there's multiple ways where that's just the more valued pick and play. So if I had to pick a side, I'm not a big Rashee Rice guy, but I do think that side ended up with a little bit more market value. Adam's team is pretty disgusting. I like it a lot. I think it was as close to a win-win for both teams as I've ever seen a trade. If I had each of their rosters, I would be on that side of the trade, if that makes sense. If I have Adam's team, I would take the Amon-Ra side. And if I had T. Hummel's team, I'd have to take a look at it again. But I think he does want to swing for some fences there and change it up. So that would be my take.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty fair, right? I think so Kendall and I, for conversation's sake, Kendall and I are both part of this league. I actually am the one that sold Amon-Ra after the startup draft. I got 2 firsts and a second for him last year, and so Amon-Ra has been traded again. And so I think when you look at this trade, the Amon-Ra side to me is more of the, hey, I need to go for it right now. Adam did win the league this year, and with this roster that he has, plus this Amon-Ra addition, I think it's going to be a lot of injuries to say that he's not going to win the league again this year. So I love it for Adam because it guarantees him he's in the playoffs. There's no question about that. And I think it guarantees that he's in the final at the end of the year, just the depth of the roster and then the ceiling that he has. Here's my only issue with the trade, Kendall. I question. I like Luther Burden a lot, but you are selling the hope, or you're in this case, you're buying the hope of what he could be. I'm going to say this. I do think Luther Burden's going to pan out, right? I think he's going to go on to have a good career for the Bears. I think it is very possible. I think it's very possible that he becomes the 1B, if not the 1A to Rome. I know you're a big Rome guy, but I think it is in the range of outcomes that is a more even split in terms of targets, receptions, and touchdowns than you maybe think it is. I don't think it's a clear, Justin Jefferson is clearly the 1 and Addison is clearly the 2. I think this could be more of a CD Lamb, George Pickens. Who's the 1A? Who's the 1B? Devonta Smith, AJ Brown. So I like Luther Burden a lot, but we have to also say that it's a small sample size. We loved what we saw the second, I won't even say half, maybe the last quarter of the year where he was really on fire. Rashee Rice is a wild card. The news came out this week that he's not going to get any sort of punishment for his newest whatever he's done this time. The 28 first is super far out. I think the depth of Adams' team probably makes it a mid to late first, even 2 years from now, just because Adams' team is pretty top heavy and he's got guys that have at least a 2-year window.
It will bottom out at some point. He's got a lot of 28, 29 cliffs, CMC type of production, but that might not be till 2029. Hard to.
Yeah, and look, and Mike Evans, I think, is probably in the swan song. This might be it. And Mike Evans has had injury history, so I think the safer side of the trade is the Amon-Ra side. I think the upside of the trade favors Hummel and the Rashee Rice, Luther Burden side. I just see a world where the ceiling is there for both teams. The floor is higher for the Amon-Ra side. Then there's just more risk built into the Rice Burden side. But I do think Luther Burden is going to pan out. And so I think it's a very even trade. And you and I say this on the show all the time. Let's draft and presume health. Well, let's trade and assume ceiling outcomes in Dynasty. I think if the ceilings hit here, it's a pretty damn even trade. So I like it. I like both sides of it. I know Amon-Ra is a very difficult piece to sell, and he's truthfully a very difficult piece to acquire. So if you're listening / watching the show, this gives you a pretty good comp. If you are in the market for Amon-Ra as a seller or a buyer, here is a comp of a real trade that went down. We're going to move on to the next one, but let me just finalize it for those that are joining late. Team A, Rashee Rice, Luther Burden, a 28 first, and this year's 203. Team B, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Mike Evans, the 304, the 27 third, and a 28 second. So let's move into this one because this one is also a blockbuster. This one comes from T. Hummel as well. Totally different league. We don't know who the other team is in this one, so apologies. We would love to shout you out, but we don't have your name. So if you are listening, your trade's going to get talked about. Team A receives Ricky Pearsall and the 101, which we all know in all formats will be Jeremiah Love, including Superflex. Team B receives Theo Johnson, this year's 2026 110, the 26 201, so 10 and 11 because it's a 10-team draft, and 27 firsts, both project, based on the information we got, to be mid to late firsts next year. Kendall, I'm going to just ask this question because this is the trade. I love Ricky. You know I love Ricky. But is this package enough to buy Jeremiah Love? Is this fair compensation? Because, guys, we are Tuesday, April 7th. We're like 15 days out from the draft, 14 days out from the draft. So a lot of managers going to be trying to acquire that 101, which will be Jeremiah Love. Kendall, 26 110, 26 201. So pick 10 and 11 in this year's draft and 2 mid to late firsts next year. Would you rather have that side or Jeremiah Love? And Ricky Pearsall, but let's just.
Yeah, it's worth noting I'm above market on Ricky Pearsall. There's a lot of players. When I play Dynasty, I often talk about look to acquire and look at valuing players where you have identifiably predictable appreciation, right? If you just look at an asset, right? This is the reason I was really bullish on drafting a lot of Egmeka Egbuka in rookie drafts ahead of where he was going in ADP, just because I thought Evans would leave sooner rather than later, and it's this built-in appreciation. Me and you personally saw that with Luther Burden as a knowing. Yeah, I mean, I 100%. Anyone who follows the Bears closely, and you follow everything, that DJ Moore was going. So we knew that there was going to be some expected appreciation. So it's worth noting that I'm big on Ricky Pearsall. Look, for me, the trade comes down to the fact that it's a 10-team format, and it's not terribly difficult if you know what you're doing to accumulate good assets and great rosters. 10-team, everyone's pretty good. You don't really see a bad roster in 10-team, and with the rubber band, characteristics, if you're bad, you can force yourself good quickly, right? So because of that, I always find myself in 10-team leagues I'm usually spoiled for riches. Even if I'm just having a lot of like nailing a lot of seconds and thirds to the point where you're like, great, but I have no room to add any more players to my team because I don't really want to drop anybody. I always want to make smart consolidation trades to really go for that elite level points per game, at a singular position in a singular starting roster. That's very different in 12 team or start 11 leagues that are hyper deep. But for me, the tiebreaker really is similar to the previous trade, right? There's one side's got a little higher end asset right here. The 101's obviously clear, but the other side has the ability to, if you just change together a bunch of 2024 drafts, right? Where you can get a lot of insane picks at the 110, right? Lovelands, right? You chain together a couple of like Achan was a 1-2 pick. Loveland was a 1-2 pick. You string in this particular case with 3-4 of those together. Yeah, I'm going to take that side over the Jeremiah Love side all day. So is there a viable path to that side smashing? Because that's just what happens when you nail a bunch of first-round picks. Yeah, it's got the most upside. But I think in the middle range outcome, if all those picks are just good players and you're benching at least one of them because it's the nature of 10 team, give me Jeremiah Love.
Yeah, I'll be honest, this one got submitted a little bit late, so I haven't had as much time to sit with it as I have with some of the other ones. At first glance, I thought, okay, this is giving up a lot, and it's maybe a bit of an overpay for Jeremiah Love. But the more that I've been sitting with this, here's where I'm at. I'm on the Jeremiah Love, Ricky Pearsall side, and here's why. Number one, you've got to put names. You just did a great example, right? The Lovelands and the Achans from years past. I think at the 110 this year, you're looking at Eli Stowers, who I really like. I mean, we've talked about him on this show already. He's clearly he was clearly the tight end 2 as of yesterday. Today, now apparently he's taking visits as a wide receiver, according to the news.
Yeah, he's straight up. He's my tight end 1 in the class.
I mean, I know you're not a Sadiq guy. I don't like Sadiq early in the draft where he's going. Right now, I don't think he should be ahead of Omar Cooper and some of these other, guys, but someone's going to do it. He's going to go at the 106. You know that he is. But look, at the 110 and at the 201, I'm going to be honest. I've done enough mock drafts. I've written enough mock drafts for leagues that I'm in of like what I think could happen. My main Dynasty league, I always write 2 or 3 mock drafts, and then I have a very kind of spicy one that I do very last that I've just started writing as of today, actually. But it always includes tons of projected trades. I am not in love with the late first-round picks here, even in 10 team. And you know this, Kendall. In every single season we go through, you've got 3, maybe 4 high-ceiling guys. And then there's a tier break. And then you've got 3-4 guys that are going to be good. They're going to be solid for real NFL football and for fantasy. And then there's a tier break. And if you're at the 109 to 112, that's still a wild card for me. Look at Matthew Golden. You know what I mean? Like Matthew Golden was a first-round pick in rookie drafts, and he was a first-round wide receiver for the Packers for the first time in 800 years. Matthew Golden is not going for a first round and not an early second round pick if you're trying to flip him in a league right now. In fact, if you're trying to do anything with Matthew Golden, you're putting him in as part of a trade package and hoping somebody just goes, okay. So I think that the Team B side, Theo Johnson, the 110, the 201, the 2 first, I think it's fair compensation for 2 reasons. One, it's technically 4 first round picks. That's a lot. But if you need a quarterback, I do like and it's super flex, so I'm going to assume that teams need quarterbacks here, especially if you're giving up the 101. I think it's a good trade for Team B, but there's a lot of risk built in. These first rounders could fail. You could grab the next Josh Rosen at quarterback in next year's class. What if Arch Manning isn't his daddy and his 2 uncles? That is a very real outcome.
Or if he's Trevor Lawrence and just doesn't get it for 2 years because that 4 happens.
Years. Yeah, I mean, so Theo Johnson is irrelevant in this trade to me because of the signing of Likely, right? The 110, the 201, like, yeah, they're good picks, but they've got to hit. And if they don't, you're not getting the top 5 guys next year if these are projected to be mid to late first. You're getting the 107 or beyond. So Give me Jeremiah Love. I think this is the stronger side of the trade. It's a ceiling play. You're not getting even all of these points together. Maybe you're going to get that. But like, if Jeremiah Love really does become the next Bijan Gibbs and is in that tier, then you need at least 3 of these picks to hit to put those points into your team on a weekly basis to make up for that. Right? Like, Kendall, I had a 31-point lead against you in the finals of one of our leagues. And you had Bijan against the Rams defense. And we're like, well, we like the Rams defense. I put it in the group text. I was like, I should win this. And what did Bijan do? I literally said, as long as Bijan doesn't score 31 points, I'm going to win all 4 of the leagues that I am in the championship for.
I was just thinking,
and sure enough, Bijan did not score 31 points. He scored 37. And fair play to you. You and I had the 2 best teams all season. We deserve to both be in the finals, and you beat me because you had Bijan, and both of our teams are great in that league. But here's my point I'm trying to make. That is the ceiling outcome that a Bijan Robinson, a Jahmyr Gibbs, and what we project a Jeremiah Love can give you. Is Matthew Golden and Colston Loveland and I was going to say some late firsts from last year, but those were Caleb Johnson and RJ Harvey, which are giving you 0. So that's my point. Are those kinds of players that were first rounders last year,
save your words,
giving you a 37 combined points? Maybe, probably not. So give me the Jeremiah Love side. That's the ceiling outcome that you can't get from other players. Let's move on. This one's interesting. I really actually think we can spend too much time on all of these, but this is from Dead Man Mose. He is from the UK, from across Le Pond, as they say. He will not be joining us live tonight because it is 3 a.m. So I've told him that this will be on YouTube tomorrow, as well as Spotify and Patreon. So I hope that he has a chance to jump in and listen or watch tomorrow. He's given us 2, Kendall. 12-team, super flex, PPR. It's tight end premium. It doesn't say if it's a half or a full, but it is TEP. This first, actually, I don't think either of these included tight end, so not a big deal. He has sent away Justin Herbert, Kinshawn Judkins, and his 2027 first. He prefaced this by saying he just missed out on the championship last year and he is a contender, so let's assume this is a late first. He received Josh Allen and Kyron Williams. So again, he is sending away. Oops, sorry, you got it. Quiet. Yep, no, we're good. We're both doing the same thing. Josh Allen and Kyron Williams are now in his team. He is sending out Herbert, Judkins, and the first. Does anything jump off this page to you? Do you have a side that you prefer? Is this fair value? Josh Allen's hard to acquire. I mean, a lot of these pieces are, but Josh Allen's hard to acquire.
Yeah. I mean, this one's tough for me because I feel like I've been a Herbert guy. I bought the dip in a lot of places. One of my best fantasy trades of all time is I flipped Kyler Murray in like a third for Justin Herbert, and that looked really bad until it felt amazing. And I think Judkins is a pretty solid buy low. I mean, so there's a lot of bits of that make a lot of sense to me. Josh Allen's Josh Allen, though, right? If everyone's got a stacked roster, right? Like if this is one of those, if this is 10-team, this is where I kind of lean Josh Allen. Kyron's got me a little nervous with what Blake Corum's kind of doing. I feel like his overall outcomes, there's some risk there. There's more risk to Kyron than I think people are willing to say. A Stafford back injury would be rough for him. Corum just catching up a little bit could be a little bit rough for his elite upside. That's what you're getting there. This is a 12-team Superflex, right?
Yep, 12-team.
Yeah, and tight end premium. I got to be honest, I'm kind of leaning towards that. I think that Herbert and Josh Allen are probably a little bit close together. And the Judkins in the first are pretty insane. The 27 first is projected late, right?
Yeah, it's projected late.
Yeah, if that's a projected late pick, I'm in most of my leagues where I think I'm a heavy contender, I'm going to take the Josh Allen side because for the same take as your Bijan take earlier, just going for the elite upside at an insane position is big. Yeah. If my roster if things went wrong in a couple drafts and I need to catch up on value and I don't think that Josh Allen is enough to win me a title, then he's going to rot. then I think I'm leaning towards the Herbert side a little bit. I think in the trade market, the Josh Allen side has the better market value. I'm personally leaning towards the Herbert side a little bit more though.
Yeah, I mean, this team's pretty loaded. I didn't say this in the trade because I didn't want to impact anyone's answer, but I will say this now that we've given some takes on the trade. His team was Justin Herbert. We replaced Herbert with Allen. So his team is now Josh Allen and Caleb Williams, Omarion Hampton, CMC. It was Judkins. Replace that with Kyron, Rico Dowdle, Javonte Williams, Drake London, Nico Collins. I assume when he says JJ, it's Justin Jefferson, Cortland Sutton, Chris Olave, Worthy, Pitts, and Loveland. This roster's loaded. So if it's wild in a 12 team to have this many solid players. I don't know what kind of a startup draft this was, auction. Maybe he's made some crazy trades, but that doesn't matter because this is what he has. So what I'm going to say is this. In a vacuum, I'm with you, Kendall. I would take the Josh Allen side because of the ceiling play there. That wins him the league. Yeah. Everything presumes health, because now you're taking.
It feels like the trade I literally did with you, like in one of our leagues. I bought Josh Allen for this is going to win me the league, probably, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so that was a single quarterback league, but yes. Mm-hmm. So the reality is that the Josh Allen side, of course, is stronger. I want to just go away from Josh Allen for just 1 second. I'm concerned about Kyron. I got a note today. Someone texted me, and then I got a note in one of my leagues that I guess the fantasy footballers had a trade segment today about Kyron and trading him away. I'll be honest, I've not listened to their show.
Long Kyron conversation. Yeah, some split takes there too. They were not all in alignment. It's
So I'm gonna say this because I have not listened to the show, so I have no idea what was discussed. I have a guess, but I'm gonna give you my sense. I'm concerned about Kyron for 2 reasons. Number one, the emergence of Blake Corum, which is the most obvious one. But the other concern that I have is, and Kendall, you and I have talked about this, I think this is it for Matt Stafford and Davante Adams. And I think had the Rams won the Super Bowl instead of the Sea Chickens, that Matt Stafford would already be retired, as would Davante Adams. I think I think this year, had they won the Super Bowl, that would have been it. I think they are coming back for their Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen last dance. And I'm concerned about Sean McVay. Because if the Rams do win the Super Bowl this year, what does Sean McVay have left to prove? Unless he just loves coaching. He doesn't need the money. He will have won 2 Super Bowls at that point. It's like he's the next Tom Brady in terms of the multi-million-dollar Fox Sports or whatever network he chooses to go work for. That contract, I've heard, is basically sitting and waiting for him. So I wonder what happens with a rookie quarterback or a transition, bridge 1 year kind of guy, because Kyron is not capable of carrying a team by himself. And if you've got an inexperienced or a huge downgrade at quarterback next year, that means more Blake Corum for Kyron. You've got your star receiver in rehab right now, and don't buy the bullshit that he's been there for months from the agent. That's agent speak. His ass went to rehab last week when the news started getting real bad. He's just checked in recently. You've got a 36-year-old Davante Adams. I think it looks like they're going to draft Mekhi Lemon, which would be sexy as fuck.
Yeah, that looks nasty.
That would be real sexy. Mekhi Lemon becomes the 101 in my opinion. If Cardinal Tate goes to the Browns at 6, and at 13, Lemon goes to the Rams. Sorry, that's not the 101. Excuse me, I misspoke. That's the wide receiver one at that point.
Yeah.
Lemon goes at the 102 ahead of Mendoza in Superflex, if that's what really happens. But look, I just don't see Kyron carrying a team. If he could, they wouldn't have the kind of Blake. It's a very similar backfield to what we just saw with Sharps and Walker without the 50-50 carry. Kyron gets more work, but Corum's not going away. So I love the Josh Allen side of this trade. I think this wins Dead Man Mo's the championship this year and probably next year, given some of the youth and upside and ceiling he still has. But I would get out of Kyron sooner than later.
Yeah.
So I don't, I'm not saying that this is a bad trade for him. I think this is a great trade for him. He should, assuming health, there's no seal. I mean, I haven't seen the other teams in this league, but like, come on. Hampton, CMC, Kyron, Dowdle, Javante, like you've still got ceiling, even if guys are on bye weeks or miss a couple weeks. Christian McCaffrey will miss a couple weeks. London, Collins, Jefferson, Sutton's not great, but like Sutton can catch a touchdown the week that JJ's got a bye or that Olave's out with a concussion. Like, I mean, this is a big roster. So I love this trade, Deadman Mose. I think you did a great job here. I think it's good value. I just wait till Kyron has a couple of good weeks and flip him. Get something else out of it. Get a lower tier running back and a pick next year so that you can keep replenishing and stockpiling. So let's move to this next one because this next one's really interesting. Mike Hare saying I offered 3 first and was denied Allen. Mike was texting me about that one. We've been chatting back and forth about some stuff. I remember that. I do feel bad for him, but that's the going rate. Sometimes certain guys are just unattainable. Deadman Mose, different league, 12 team this one. 12 team Superflex PPR, no tight end premium. So this is a different league, similar format, but no TEP here. He says he's been offered the 106 and the 109 for Rashee Rice. I know what I want to do here, Kendall. This is actually easy for me, but where are you leaning with this trade here, with the Rashee Rice side or the 2 firsts?
Ooh,
and it's 12 teams, so it's a mid and a late first, the 106, 109.
12 teams flex. Yeah. Look, my spicy take right. This is becoming a little bit tough because with the way I think most of my NFL mock drafts have like the 106 for me is probably good. I think there's a chance that particularly my take is all about KC Concepcion, who is like my absolute dude. I have been massively in on him. I got in really early, and also like I'm a huge Matt Harmon fan. One of the guys that's really helped me level up in how I look at the wide receiver market, and just learning how to scout them as an actual process, which I don't spend the time they do, but I actually try to. And he's like, I think his number 2 wide receiver in the class, essentially, is how Matthew Harmon looks at him. And so if everything goes the way it has to go and Mendoza has to have a floor, I think there's a chance that Mendoza could potentially fall to the 106 and people could get super hyped on KC, right? So I have to preface that I'm just going to give this take as if I can guarantee KC Concepcion at the 106. So let me give you that one. In that case, sign me up for the 2 firsts because I think KC Concepcion is going to be whatever team he lands on is going to be their version of Rashee Rice and have somewhat of a hybridized production between like a Wan'Dale Robinson, what he did last year, kind of without the neighbors, what I think he'll do on the Tennessee Titans. And I don't think the quite ceiling comp of what Rashee Rice did, in a healthy 2025 and whatnot. Right. Yep. But if you can sign me up for a KC to the Dolphins, there's a chance KC literally ends up on the Chiefs. There is actually a couple of good landing spots where I'm like, he's also just nice. And maybe I'm a big Stowers guy, right? It's tight end premium, so I also get my tight end one in the class later on and get to call the shot. I would love to take those 2 players. This feels very much like in just a year ago. This feels like saying I'm bullish on Colston Loveland long term, so I'm going to pick up him and a little bit earlier pick. It kind of feels kind of similar to me, actually. Different tiers, but yeah, that's where I'm on.
You nailed it. I mean, that take is perfect. You could have gotten most likely Emeka Egbuka at the 106 and Colston Loveland at the 109 last year, and you would have taken that 5-6 times out of 10 last year. Now today, you're taking that 9, if not 10 times out of 10 for Rashee Rice. I would take that 10 times out of 10 over Rashee Rice. Let me give you just a slight, because you nailed the take, so I don't want to take away from what you said. Let me just give you a slightly different look at this. It is very realistic that Omar Cooper Jr., KC Concepcion are going to be the 106. I think that is almost guaranteed that they're going to be the 106. I do think Mendoza is going to be gone. In a super flex league, I see the appeal. I get it.
Value insulation. He's a can't miss. You should not draft a Zay Flowers type when you've got a Mendoza there, and you could be there.
Right. And so I see a world. The reason I'm saying Cooper and Concepcion is it is very possible, because they are projected later first round picks.
Good teams.
Good teams. It is also possible that the Chiefs get hot and bothered for one of them. And now you've got Rashee Rice with more competition, which I expect to happen. Is Patrick Mahomes really healthy? And when he is healthy, is he going to be the same caliber player? So I think that I would take the 2 firsts straight up. I have concerns over Rashee Rice's future. And listen, he's not Puka, and Puka's in fucking rehab right now. Rashee Rice is not exactly a poster boy for sit home and play video games and, read your playbook. Let's just be honest about that. So it is very possible that Rashee Rice's value increases this season if he has a good season. I would put that at about 60%. It is a probably 40% chance that his value goes off a cliff the next time he does something stupid and gets a big suspension, which is not out of the range of possibilities. Deadman Mose, I would take the 2 firsts. And then I would, if you hate the 109, trade up. Flip it for a first next year. I don't think anything bad can happen, but get yourself a nice KC Concepcion or Omar Cooper at the 106 and take the trade.
Yeah.
Let's move Kendall to a 10-team league, super flex. Excuse me there. I've also got this right in the middle of our faces. There we are. Let's get a 10-team super flex half-point PPR from Team Mac Attack. He's got Team A having Jalen Hurts and the 2026 304. Team B, Jordan Love and the 2026 110. The only thing I wish I knew about this league is if it was 4-point or 6-point, because this is quarterback for quarterback, and that does make a difference because Hurts runs and Tush pushes and Love does not.
It does feel like it was 4-point though. I exchanged a couple messages with them, and Hurts was a particular target for the rushing, so it feels like it's that.
Which, I mean, anytime you're acquiring a rushing quarterback, I sort of assume it's a 4-point, because otherwise, what are you doing flipping quarterbacks? So, Kendall, what side are you on here? Or is this pretty even? What's your thoughts at this quarterback for quarterback with some picks thrown in?
Yeah, so one, I love this trade because I think it's a nuanced trade. You're going to hear me talk about Jordan Love often as a buy low candidate. I want access to young, talented quarterbacks in historically strong front office organizations that have very stable, good coaching in the NFC North, where everyone's going to just have to put up a lot of points for probably many years to come at this point. There's just a lot of positives there. So I like Love as a buy low personally. But format matters, and understanding where you're missing the boat and using a trade to address a team issue. So then you have to worry about more than just, am I winning the trade on value? It's, I'll take a net neutral, or I'll lose 1% to 5% on a trade if it significantly addresses an issue that makes my team better, because I do want to play to win, right? You know me, I'm a sucker for value. Sometimes I'll lose because I like a good rebuild every now and again. But so what I'm saying is 10 team, that matters, right? The tier up to Hurts does matter. It's also half PPR. That's a big deal, which means it neuters every single other positional category against your quarterback. The amount of times that you're going to have an advance rate that's high is based on hitting on quarterback in half PPR leagues. In full PPR 3 wide receiver, right, you can really drown out a lot of that elite level quarterback production just by having a stable roster and having 2 very strong flexes, right? So I think it's a savvy trade. If I'm ever going to try to take the buy low on Hurts, right, which I think at this point with all the negative news, ESPN is single-handedly bringing his value down, but remove all the noise and it's like, we're probably overreacting a little bit. Like, situation's a big deal. We talk about in fantasy all the time, even if you don't believe the talent. I personally don't. He's still on a pretty good offense with a lot of weapons, and I think they're going to be good forever. And so anyways, I think it's a good trade. If I'm in his situation, his team's also quite good. It's not like a juggernaut. It's quite good. I like the tier up to Hurts in a 10-team league. I'm starting to love the 110s and the late firsts a little bit more, because I'm definitely on the like, yeah, they're not good. This class isn't good. But if the take's getting a little too spicy and you can buy 110s for like the same thing as that 202s used to go for, I'm paying attention. And I think it's a smart tier up to Hurts.
I agree with you. It is a smart tier up. Here's my concern. The 110 and the 3-4 suggest that there is that big of a gap between Jordan Love and Jalen Hurts. And I do agree today there is. I agree with you, Kendall. Forget the noise. The noise is bullshit. I don't want to hear about Jalen Hurts has an attitude problem and he's got to play all the whatever. We all read the same tweets and we all do the same stuff. I trust Howie Roseman. If they trade A.J. Brown away, and it seems like they're going to, I think you're going to find out on April 23rd if they're trading A.J. Brown. Because if the Eagles pull a trigger on a first or second round wide receiver, goodbye A.J. Brown. Even if the trade doesn't happen on draft night, that is Howie Roseman saying A.J. Brown will not be on this roster in 2026, or if he is, he will not be on this roster in 2027. That's a fact. Otherwise, why the hell are you drafting his replacement? So I trust Howie Roseman to bring in the right players to keep Jalen Hurts' value high. I don't see a world where Jordan Love is going to finish as the QB5 again. I don't. Outside of an anomaly season, because the Packers, sorry, Packers fans, who's your wide receiver one? Tucker Kraft is your wide receiver one. You don't have a wide receiver that's your wide receiver one. You lack that guy. Christian Watson's always hurt. Matthew Golden, lots of questions. Jordan Reed, he misses every other game. I mean, so it's like, oh, sorry, not Jordan Reed, Jaden Reed. Jordan Reed is retired. Jaden Reed.
R.I.P., buddy.
Yeah,
so
exactly. But what I like about this trade is I actually like the Love side. I like, you nailed it. It is a tier up for Hurts for this season and probably next season. So if Hurts helps you win a championship, great trade. Great trade. But long term, what if this 110 becomes something? What if this 110 is Jadarian Price, who goes to Seattle and actually becomes the guy? I don't think that there's an RB2 in this class that is really truly going to become the guy. But the RB2 in this class, if I just wrote this up in my or one article that I wrote today, actually, the RB2 in this class, if Seattle drafts at 32, Kenneth Walker's replacement, that's the RB2. There's no question about it. That's who it's going to be. And Sharps is going to miss the majority of this year. So whoever this player is, whether it's Jadarian Price or Jonah Coleman or Emmett Johnson, I do think it'll be either Coleman or Price. And right now it seems to be Price. I think that guy's got a real chance to establish himself, because if he can't, goodbye. Sharps is right back in there the minute that he is healthy, and they'll go back to a committee that they like to have with Walker and Sharps. But if this 110 is Eli Stowers, or is the RB2 in this class, or happens to be that receiver that we're not talking about, maybe it's Elijah Surratt, who lands in Miami as the wide receiver 2 and pops off.
Cooper Jr. in a bad landing spot, but just nails it as a slot.
Yeah. I don't see I just don't see a world where Concepcion and Cooper are making it past the 6-7.
Yeah, I don't love it. It's Denzel Boston. I mean, this could be a Denzel Boston pick.
Yeah, I'm not a big Denzel Boston guy, but yes, it could be. But there's a world where I think this 110 becomes more valuable, and Love plus the 110 ends up being the stronger side of this trade. So not a bad trade. There's not a clear winner here. I see the case for both sides, but I personally, I think I would feel, if Jalen Hurts helps me win the championship, I feel great. If he doesn't, I think I like the Love 110 side. So let's move into another one here because I want to pop through these a little bit quicker. Well, let's do this one. Team A, Superflex 12-team tight end premium full PPR. Team A, Wan'Dale Robinson and Jalen Naylor. Team B, Kirko Chains, Chris Godwin, Rashad White. Kendall, what you like? What you thinking?
I was a big fan of this trade for you. I'm a big Wan'Dale guy, always have been, even before the NFL draft, just as a prospect. So I feel like when you scout a guy and he's like, I'm going to take him in rookie drafts, I'm going to be high on him, and then he does what he does. I'm just a big fan of him. And Jalen Naylor, I think can, over the course of like a 3-year window, I actually like the fact he's probably going to be the team's third receiving weapon, but probably a good wide receiver 2 in the long run to that offense. And with better quarterback play, I mean, I liked what I saw out of him last year in those games where he single-handedly was their offense sometimes, which was kind of cool. So I think you got pretty solid value. The thing I'll say about the other side is Godwin has a lot of outcomes, more than we give him credit for, where he could have a pretty decent season, right? He could be like a pretty decent Tyler Lockett season where like, oh, he's still valuable. He could have a Jacoby Myers like pretty solid season, right? So you're giving up pieces that are going to score some fantasy points, right? It's not like a lopsided trade. I don't like the aging guys, right? And I want to get out of them when I can. And if I can find good players that are maybe undervalued for them, I think it makes sense. So I like the trade for your side. And I think that the team you're selling to is buying some relevant short-sighted production. Rashad White could even be like a random, like Godwin and Rashad White could be like can you see him in like a dynasty, in like a best ball league being like, man, how the hell were they really positive advance rate guys? But like that stuff happens sometimes, right? Look, so like that's why it's definitely not robbery. I do think it's close. We've been split a lot. This is a closer to a win on that side for me. For you, I like that. But player takes.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to get to the B segment tonight because we just have too many trades submitted. So thank you to everybody who was a part of this. We've still got a few more to get through. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about, Kendall, and maybe we'll get to this next week, but I have some in the B segment, just a trade show, right? Win now quarterbacks, win now running backs, who's in a contract year, win now wide receivers. I have Bill Krosky-Merritt there as a win now running back with a giant question mark because if he survives the draft, him and Rashad, if the Titans take Jeremiah Love, and that seems to be what we anticipate is going to happen, Bill Krosky-Merritt and Rashad White, barring trade, are huge winners for this season. I don't know what their dynasty value is going forward because I think the Commanders will eventually bring somebody higher profile in, but huge winners for this season. So we'll see how that trade turns out. I want to get into this next one here because this one is a big, sexy name. Team A, Justin Jefferson. Team B, JT, Malik Willis, the 109, this year's 109, and a 27 first. Kendall, this is your trade, so I'm going to break it down.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fair value. I'm gonna not make the same take I made earlier, but the ceiling take is there. JJ cannot be replicated with when he's hot, when he's healthy, with two guys, maybe three guys sometimes, cannot replicate what he can do for you in a week. There are very few players in the NFL that can win you the week by themselves. Justin Jefferson can win you the week by himself. Jonathan Taylor is not a bum by any means. He has been the overall RB1. He just had a phenomenal season. I think JT's going to have a great season again this year, and I believe he's going to have a really hot start to the season before Daniel Jones comes back, because they've got to lean on him. So I like the thought process for the acquiring manager, but JT's in a contract year, and the Colts just paid 65 truckloads worth of money to Alec Pierce. Daniel Jones, please God, tell me he has the same agent as Kirk Cousins, because if he doesn't, I'd be shocked. And if he does, I'll go, yeah, that makes sense, because he keeps getting guaranteed contracts and big money, and he's not worth it. He's a good quarterback, not a great quarterback. Here's why I have some questions about the other side of this trade. We don't know what Malik Willis is. We haven't seen it. We are projecting that Malik Willis is going to be a quarterback in an offense that is going to, guaranteed, guys, have one, probably two rookie wide receivers as their top two guys to go with Malik Washington. Again, rookies bust. Yes, we love Casey Concepcion. I would love Casey Concepcion to go to the Dolphins. I would love Omar Cooper Jr. to go to the Dolphins. I think both of those guys have a real shot to, one of those guys has a real shot to land in Miami, and that would be great. But they still have to be good. They still have to produce. And I don't think, regardless of if they do produce, they're not going to produce at a level that Justin Jefferson is. The 109 this year, we've talked about it. It's got some built-in risk. Someone is in your drafts, someone's going to reach for a running back. If Seattle drafts a running back at 32, that becomes the RB2, and that RB2 is going probably between the 107 and the 110 in your league. Someone's going to reach. I don't know if the talent is there, even if the draft capital is. And let me remind you all, even if let's say it's Jadarian Price. Even if Jadarian Price goes to Seattle and he's good, Have y'all not watched Seattle the last 2 years? Sharps is going to be involved. This is not going to be a single running back, bell cow backfield. This is a committee. The 27th first is going to be late. I know your roster. Your roster is loaded. You're making the playoffs unless everybody in your team, sits in the same, ice tub and gets a staph infection on the same week. Like they're all going to be, they're all going to be fine. So I think it's a lot to give up for JJ, but I see a world where JT is not a Colt next year, and that raises questions where Malik Willis takes a year or two to grow into it and maybe doesn't pan out, and the picks could bust. So I think there's a lot of safety in the JJ side, and then the JT side has good value today, but I see a world where
I think I need some pieces too. He needed a reason to spin something up. He's quarterback hungry, so it was a relatively affordable quarterback to add to his team. Likes JT. He's on that side. And he admitted, he's like, the 109's lottery picky, but I need an oops I hit. And so he wanted the chance at it. And I'm like, this does kind of feel like we're both looking at exactly what we're looking at. So.
And picks gain value, and guys see that number one. A 10-team league, right? And people go, well, I don't want a second. Please remember this if you're listening or watching this show. The 201 in a 10-team league is a first-round pick. Don't look at it, it's a second-round pick. It's not. It's the 11th pick in the draft, guys. People see that number one, and they go, oh, it's a first. I don't know that the 109 this year and the 201 are really that much different. It's the same pool of players that you are picking from. This next trade's really interesting as well. It's a player we all love. Malik Neighbors here for team 12 teams, Superflex, PPR, half-point, tight end premium. Malik Neighbors for team A. Xavier Worthy, Bashal Tootin, this year's 402 and this year's 105. Do you want me to break this down? Because you know what I'm going to say.
Well, you're not a Worthy guy, so that makes it pretty easy. And I know no one's as big on Bashal Tootin as I am, right? So if being down on those two guys, I'm pretty sure you're on the that's a slam dunk for Neighbors. I'm feeling it. I'll just say I was selling to a guy who's I think iffy on Worthy, but very high on Tootin, my level on Tootin. And it's in a league where I think he's actually looking at Mendoza at the 105 because people are just really wide receiver hungry.
In a super flex league, you think Mendoza's getting to the 105? I mean, it's possible.
Just the way our draft falls, no one's QB hungry through there. So
it's possible. Here's where I'm at. You traded Malik Neighbors for the 105 plus some pieces. I don't like Xavier Worthy. I've never liked Xavier Worthy. I don't have him on my teams. I don't draft him. The only place I draft him is in best ball if I had Patrick Mahomes. And if y'all pay attention to any sort of news, Patrick Mahomes is not going to wind up on a whole lot of my best ball teams this year because of the injury and the slow start, which means Xavier Worthy is going to wind up on probably 1 to 2% of my best ball teams this year. If the Chiefs draft a receiver, and we think that they will, maybe not in the first round, but I expect them to add another receiver in this class. I just don't see a world where Worthy is going to be that first round investment that they draft him to be. Bashal Tootin is the guy today, but it's Jacksonville, man. It's going to be a committee, and I don't know what his value is long-term going forward. The 402 is worthless, and the 105 is going to be one of the big receivers. So I think this is a slam dunk. I think Neighbors is going to be totally fine. We've seen tons of players come off ACLs and other knee injuries and come back maybe slow, but just as good, if not better. So I just don't see a world where the value of the 105 plus Worthy plus Tootin increases enough to make this, I'm not saying it's a highway robbery. I'm not saying, this trade was a fleece by any means, but I don't think that you paid full price for Neighbors, and I think you got a discount. I think it's a fucking great trade. I think it's a very discounted.
I'm pretty happy. I accrued a decent amount of assets so I could fire sale into some consolidation. So this one pairs with I don't know if we got time. Even got time for the next one, but these were back to back. I did both of these the same day actually too.
No, this is great. I mean, this is great. So let's get into this last one here. Because this one's interesting because we had this conversation earlier with Dead Man Mose getting the 106 and the 109, I think it was, offered to him for Rashee Rice. This trade is Team A receives Ashton Genty and a 2027 second. Team B gets Zay Flowers, the 106 and the 108. Look, I think 12-team Superflex PPR half point tight end premium. I made this argument earlier. I'm going to make it again. The ceiling for Genty. I love what the Raiders did this offseason, and they basically got a new draft pick in Max Crosby coming back to their team. That was a nice surprise for them, right? I know they'd rather have other picks and the money and all the shit that happened, but like, what are you going to do? Cry that Max Crosby's back on your roster? Get out of here. That's fantastic for them. What I really like is the Kendall, give me the name of the center that the Ravens let go. That is
Linderbaum.
Linderbaum. Thank you. Tyler Linderbaum. Thank you. It was right there on the edge of my tongue. I love that for Ashton Genty. That is a huge win for Ashton Genty. Yes, it's a win for supporting Mendoza and like what he's eventually going to need. But like, let's be honest, Genty's talent, forget the coaching staff and all the scheme and all the crap. You could have had, the greatest coach and the greatest scheme ever. There was no offensive line to block for Genty. So I don't give a shit what kind of talent he had and who's coaching the team. If you can't get any sort of space, if you can't run through a hole because there is no hole, good luck.
Yeah, I've never seen that before where a player actually had like a negative average yards before contact. He got hit before he made running progress in the majority of his runs. That's insane.
Yeah. I mean, this is literally like, the argument, could a regular person in the NFL gain 1 yard? Not behind that offensive line. So if Ashton Genty can't do it, you can't do it. I said before the Max Crosby, what we thought was going to be the trade, that Zay Flowers was a huge winner in the Max Crosby trade because they gave up those 2 first-round picks, which meant there was no opportunity to bring in a first-round wide receiver opposite Flowers. Now that's changed a little bit. So I think Zay Flowers survives the draft. I don't see a world where the Ravens don't add a wide receiver. I don't know if it'll be a first-round wide receiver. It hasn't. The mock drafts don't seem to be going that way. In fact, what I have seen actually is Eli Stower's name come up a lot.
Yeah.
As the replacement
I've seen
/ the number. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of I don't know if replacement, but as the complement to Mark Andrews. But Flowers' ceiling is, I think we may have just seen his best statistical season this past season. I could see a world where this is his best ever fantasy finish. The 106 is going to be Omar Cooper or Casey Concepcion in your drafts. That's going to happen. And the 108 is probably going to be some combination of Cooper, Sadiq, Stowers, somebody reaches for the RB2, Price or whoever is in there. So I don't love this RB class. I know you and I are fairly aligned on that. Sure, someone will emerge, but it's hard to tell who. After Jeremiah Love, it's a big drop off. So I like it. I think if you were trading Ashton Genty straight up, you would probably need 2 or 3 firsts. I think Flowers would fetch a late first. You've got 2 firsts in here, so I think it's a fair price with a second back. But ceiling wise, and we play for ceiling because ceiling wins championships, give me the Genty side. I think it's the stronger side of the trade. What I will say about this is it's not a fleece by any means. It is fair value. I do like the Flowers side if you're trying to build some depth. So maybe you're super top heavy. You just don't have.
He's got the 101. Yeah, he's in a full rebuild. So it was a full rerun,
right? And maybe you're flexing, Jawan Jennings or that kind of a player. Now you've got a chance to put an Omar Cooper, a Casey Concepcion in your flex. Zay Flowers and whoever your wide receiver 2 is. In this group, maybe it's Zay Flowers and Cortland Sutton. You've kind of been riding the older wave of, Mike Evans, Devontae Adams, that kind of a player. Get younger. So I like both sides of this. I think the Genty side is the slightly stronger side because of the ceiling play, but I like the depth piece that the Flowers side gives you. So that's it for tonight. I know we've got a couple more, but I'll be honest, we'll get to them. They're small trades, they're even trades, and quite frankly, it's guys that I think if you really want our analysis, we can.
So it's part 2 one of these days when we've got time. Yeah. So stick around.
Absolutely. So we are so close to the NFL draft, so close. If you want to submit more trades for us, please send them our way. We will add them to the show. We will break them down. I'll add them to the 2-minute drill. We've got a couple of spots left. I've got 2 spots left. If anyone is interested in a 12-team full PPR tight end premium best ball dynasty league, we have 2 spots left in that league. It's a $25 buy-in if you want to play in that league with us. A couple guys from the Get Right Fantasy Network. Some of the guys who are in this league will also have been featured on this show tonight. Big trades, big dynasty guys. It will be a very engaging league. If you want to get in on that, DM at P Ruskin. Excuse me, on Sleeper, and we will try to get you one of the last 2 spots. So for all of us here at the Get Right Fantasy Network, for myself, for Kendall, this has been another episode of The Extra Point. Thanks for hanging out with us on a Tuesday night. We out.
White fantasy is the play. Marking nothing, but I tune in every Friday. Strategies provided, I will lock in every way. So go